Today, we'll be going over every deck in Rurouni Kenshin for Union Arena. So the first deck we'll be going over is the deck that you can make just by buying 2 starter decks. This is something that you can definitely play right out of the gate if you are a new player. And next we'll be going over key cards for this deck. The starter deck comes with 2 S-stars that you can only get from the starter deck, one being the 4-cost Kenshin. During your turn, your opponent's characters that lose to this character in battle move to their energy line instead of being sidelined. So this is a very important key phrase that will be seen in all red Kenshins. So the most important ruling is that what happens if the destination line is full when moving the character onto your opponent's energy line? Well, the answer is if the destination line is full when moving the character, choose one card and place it into the removal area first. So basically your opponent gets to choose which card they want to remove first. Next, this Kenshin has Impact 1. And also when played, choose up to one character on your opponent's front line and move it to the energy line. And this card has 4000 BP. So the next card that can only be found in the starter deck is the 3-cost Kaoru. That is 3 energy and says at the end of your attack phase, if none of your opponent's characters were sidelined this turn, you may switch this active character to resting. If you do, draw a card. You can only activate this Kaoru ability one time each turn. So note that this is a hard once per turn, so it is not per copy of Kaoru, but can only be activated once per turn, no matter how many copies of Kaoru you have. It also says, when played, if on the energy line, you may place one card from your hand into the sideline. If you do, switch this character to active. So note that this effect is not a hard once per turn. And this card, of course, generates 2 energy with 2500 BP. And next we have our 4-cost special, the Ryu Suisen, that says choose up to one character with 5000 or less BP on your opponent's front line and move it to their energy line. If Kenshin is on your field, you may place it on the bottom of their deck instead. So definitely a very strong special since it will not trigger any when sideline abilities of your opponent's cards. And now we have our 4-cost 2 action point Sanosuke that says play this character set to active onto your field. If on the front line once per turn, when this active character is switched to resting by one of your or your opponent's abilities, switch this character to active. Also when played, this character gains your opponent must block this character's attacks if able until the end of the turn. And this card has an active trigger with 4000 BP. I'll also be going more over this card's synergy in the deck that is more suited for it later on. And we have our 4-cost 1 action point Hajime Saito that says when attacking you may switch one active character on your front line to resting. If you do, this character gains Impact 1. And this card has a draw trigger with 4000 BP. And now we will be going over cards that you can only find in the starter deck. This will be found in the booster pack, and these cards are pivotal in building decks of other colors. So we have our 4-cost 1 action point Aoshi, our 3-cost 1 action point Seijuro, our 2-cost 1 action point Makoto, and our 4-cost 1 action point Hajime. And I'll be going over decks that you can build using cards from the booster pack. So the most important one being the red Kenshin deck, and we will be going over the key cards in this deck. So one of the most notable cards is the 4-cost 1 action point Kenshin that says outside of the raid box, so no matter if it's raided or not, during your turn, your opponent's characters that lose to this character in battle move to their energy line instead of being sidelined. And then within the raid box, it says when attacking once per turn, you may place one card from your hand into your sideline. If you do, switch this character to active. So basically it allows it to double attack if you discard one card. And also when played, draw a card. So note that this is a very strong card because you can basically double attack each turn if you have the cards to discard. And now we have our 4-cost 2 action point Kenshin that says play this character set to active onto your field. When played, draw a card, then place one card from your hand into your sideline. Also activate main if on the front line once per turn. Place one Oath Not to Kill card from your sideline into your removal area. If you do draw a card and gain all Kenshin characters on your field lose during your turn abilities until the end of the turn. So why would you use this ability? Well, mainly because it allows your Kenshins to actually sideline opposing characters, because they will lose their push to the backline ability. And note too, the card that you will be removing is effectively just the AP restand card of your deck. Our next card is the 2-cost 1 action point Kaoru. So this is a very important card of the deck because it says if Kenshin is on your front line, this character gains 1 energy generation, so going from 1 to 2. Also activate main once per turn. You can only activate this ability on the turn this character is played. Choose one Kenshin on your front line. It gains your opponent cannot choose this character with abilities until they place one card from their hand into their sideline as an additional cost until the start of your next turn. So basically you want to use this card to be able to protect your Kenshins, probably the raid ones, from getting special during your opponent's turn. And then we have our 3-cost 1 action point Kenshin that has Nullify Impact. And also during your turn, the same thing, the pushback ability. And also when played, you may place one card from your hand into your sideline. If you do, switch this character to active. So this is the color trigger of the deck, and most importantly, this is a 4000 BP character. So this is something that you will note, that all the Kenshins, their main drawback is the pushback ability, but they are definitely overstated for their energy cost. And then we have our 2 cost 1 action point Kenshin that says during your turn, this character loses 1000 BP. So going from 4000 to 3000 BP. And also during your turn, this has also the pushback ability. And our next deck is the red Sanosuke deck, and we'll be going over the key cards for this deck. The first one being, of course, the Raid, the 5 cost 1 action point Sanosuke, that has inherently damage 2, and also inherently nullify impact. And also when this character attacks and is blocked, you may switch to resting 1 active Sanosuke on your front line. If you do, this character gains 1000 BP and impact 1 until the end of the turn, so going up to 5000 from 4000 BP. Also, when played, draw a card. So effectively how this card works is that when attacking, if your opponent designates a blocker, you can rest one of your other Sanosukes. So then when you win the battle, you will effectively trigger the impact 1 of this card, dealing 1 damage to your opponent's life. And our next card is the 4 cost 2 action point Sanosuke, which is from the starter deck. So this is a very important card in the deck because it basically allows you to use all of your other cards to rest it, and then it will resist one of the resting abilities because it will not turn to resting by either one of your or your opponent abilities once per turn if on the front line. And then we also have our Hajime Saito from the starter deck, and we have our 3 cost 1 action point Sunan, which says when played, choose one of the following. Choose up to 1 resting Sanosuke on your front line and switch it to active, or you may switch to resting 1 active Sanosuke on your front line. If you do, choose up to 1 character on your opponent's front line and switch it to resting. And now we have the special of the deck, which is the 4 cost 1 action point Mastery of 2 layers. This card says you can only use this card if Sanosuke is on your field. Choose 1 character with 5000 or less BP on your opponent's front line and sideline it. You may switch to resting 1 active Sanosuke on your front line. If you do, place it into their removal area instead. So definitely a versatile card, since by placing it into their removal area, you will not trigger their when sideline abilities, but you should only use this if you have a Sanosuke that will resist being rested. And then we have our 2 cost 1 action point Yaiko that says activate main, pay 1 AP once per turn, draw a card. This character gains 1000 BP until the end of the turn. Also, when attacking, you may place 1 card from your hand into your sideline. If you do, choose up to 1 character on your field that has not attacked this turn and switch it to active. And this is the color trigger of the deck with 3000 BP. So the main point of this card is basically to turn active any cards that you turn to rested using your own cards. So next we have our purple Makoto deck, and we'll be going over the key cards for this deck. So this is one of the most interesting decks of this archetype since it has a lot of play lines that will be very fun for people that like combos. So the most important card of the deck is our 4 cost 2 action point Makoto. That is a non-raid card that says when using this card, you may place 1 Makoto, Yumi, or 10 Swords affinity card from your hand into your sideline. If you do, place this character set to active onto your field. Also, when played, place the top card of your deck into your sideline. Choose up to 1 character on your opponent's front line with BP equal to or less than 1000 multiplied by the required energy value of the card you placed into your sideline and sideline it. You would usually want to place into the sideline a card with 4 energy cost to be able to sideline a 4000 BP character on your opponent's front line. And this card has a get trigger with 4000 BP. So the main target that you want to mill off the top of your deck is the 4 cost 1 action point Seijuro that says when this character is placed from your deck into your sideline by one of your abilities, if you have the required energy for it, you may perform raid with it from your sideline. So effectively this is a free raid if you can mill it. When raided, when played, if this character was played from anywhere other than your hand, draw up to 1 card and give this character impact 1 until the end of the turn. Also, activate main. If on the front line, place the top card from this rated character on the top of your deck. You can only activate this Seijuro ability 1 time each turn. So note, this is also a hard once per turn. So you can only do it once per turn, no matter how many copies of this card you have on the field. When you strip the top card onto the top of your deck, the base card will keep the rested or unrested state of the card that it was previously before the top card went to the top of your deck. And another card for the combo is the 3 cost 1 action point Makoto. If this character has 5000 or more BP, it gains impact 1. Also activate main if on the front line. Once per turn, place the top card of your deck into your sideline. This character gains BP equal to 500 multiplied by the required energy value of the card placed into your sideline with this ability until the end of the turn. So again, the ideal card you want to be milling off the top of your deck is a 4 energy card because it will allow it to gain 2000 BP. Giving it impact 1 because it will be at 5000 BP. And this card is a 2 energy generator with 3000 BP. So the main combo of this deck, let's say you already have a Seijuro on the field like this 1 cost 1, and then you play the Makoto onto the field, and then you can just discard any card to place it active. And then what would happen is you mill a card off the top of your deck, and let's say it was the 4-cost 1 action point Seijuro. It gets played, rated onto a base Seijuro, triggering its when played ability, allowing you to draw a card and gaining impact 1. But let's say you want to extend the combo, you can activate the Seijuro, putting it onto the top of your deck, and then ideally you should have another Makoto, for example, the 3-cost 1 action point that allows you to mill again, allowing you to replay the Seijuro rated onto the same base card that you had originally. And I'll be looking specifically at that 1-cost 1 action point Seijuro. So this is a neat little card since it allows you to have more utility, because this card says when this card is placed from your deck into your sideline by one of your abilities, for example if you are milling it, you may place one card from your hand into your sideline. If you do place this card from your sideline set to resting onto your field, you can only activate this Seijuro ability one time each turn. So a hard once per turn, and this card has 2500 BP. So another card that allows you to set up your combo is the 2-cost 1 action point Phantom of the Bakumatsu that says place 1 Makoto, Yumi, or 10 Swords affinity card from your sideline on the top of your deck. Choose up to one of your AP cards and switch it to active. So the main goal of this card is basically to reuse any Seijuros that have ended up in the sideline, and this would be your prime target because again, if this card is milled, you can raid it for free, but also you can put back the 4-cost 1 action point Seijuro onto the top of your deck. So even though this card is not as efficient as the previous card, it still allows you to set up your other cards because this card costs 4 energy. And the next deck we have is the purple Hajime deck. So we'll be going over the key cards for this deck. So this is the 6-cost 1 action point Hajime Saito that has inherently impact 1, and also when played, if you have no cards with affinities on your field, this character gains all abilities listed below until the end of the turn. So this card would gain 1000 BP, and this character can attack from the energy line. Also, when this character attacks from the energy line, move it to the front line, it gains snipe until the end of the turn. So basically this is like a green Kurapika because it would be a 5000 BP card that has snipe with impact 1. And another card of the deck is the 4-cost 1 action point Hajime that inherently has nullify impact, and also this character cannot be blocked by a character with 2000 or less BP. Also when played, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 Kenshin, Hajime, or Sanosuke card among them and add it to your hand. Place the remaining cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. So this is a great utility card because it allows you to basically search for most cards in your deck and allows you to set up your combos. And we have our 4-cost 2 action point Kenshin that says play this character set to active onto your field. Also when played, reduce the AP cost of the next Hajime card with 3 or less required energy used from hand this turn by 1. This card has 4000 BP and generates 1 energy. So note that even if the next card you play is not necessarily a card that fulfills this card's requirement, the Kenshin's ability is not lost. You can still bank it for the next Hajime card with 3 or less required energy you play, no matter when it is played during the turn after you've played this card. So one card that you could play with that card is the 2-cost 1 action point Hajime. If you have no cards on your field, reduce this card's required energy by 2 while in your hand. So it effectively becomes a 0 cost if you have nothing on your field. Also when attacking, you may return 1 Kenshin or Sanosuke or 1 other Hajime on your front line to your hand. If you do, this character gains 1500 BP until the end of your turn. So going up to 4000 from 2500, and this is the color trigger of the deck. So note that this being a 0 cost when you have nothing on your field basically allows you to act as a 0 cost when starting the game. Because of this, you don't need to play as many 0 costs in your deck as you originally would if this card did not exist. For example, if we look at the card list again, outside of this card, we're playing only 8 total 0 costs. This card is a great card to allow us to play less 0 costs since those are less effective towards the mid and late game, while still allowing us to not brick in the early game. Our next deck is the blue Seijuro deck, and we're going over the key cards for this deck. The most important card being the 7-cost 1 action point Seijuro that has inherently damage 2. Also, this character cannot be blocked with a character with 2000 or less BP. Also, during your turn, this character gains 3000 BP, so bringing up to 8000 from 5000. Also, when played, add up to 1 event card from your sideline to your hand. So this is great, allowing you to reuse AP restand cards or special cards. Also, activate main once per turn. Choose 1 other character on your field. It gains 1000 BP until the end of the turn. So this is a great little utility effect that allows you to synergize with the other cards. And now we have our 5-cost 1 action point Kenshin that says if this character has 6000 or more BP, it gains double attack. Also activate main once per turn. You can only activate this ability if you have used a Will to Live card this turn. This character gains 1000 BP until the end of the turn. So the Will to Live card is the AP restand card of the deck. Also when attacking, if you have 3 or less cards in your hand, draw a card. And this card inherently has 4000 BP. So you basically need to pump this card up twice to allow it to double attack. So our special of the deck is the 5-cost 1 action point Kuzuri, which says choose one character with 3000 less BP on your opponent's front line and sideline it. If Seijuro is on your field, 5000 BP or less instead, and choose up to one Kenshin on your field, it gains 1000 BP until the end of the turn. So this is a great card to allow you to pump up your Kenshin to get it closer to being able to double attack. And we also have our 2-cost 1 action point Misao that does a very similar thing. It has, when played, choose one of the following. This character gains 1 energy generation until the end of the turn, bringing up to 2 from 1. Or choose up to one other character on your field, it gains 1000 BP until the end of the turn. Also activate main, switch to resting, choose one other character on your field, it gains 1000 BP until the end of the turn. Return this card to your hand. And we have our 0-cost 1 action point Seijuro that also has a buff ability that says when played, choose up to one Kenshin on your field, it gains 1000 BP until the end of the turn. And of course, our 7-cost 1 action point Seijuro does the same thing. It can buff one Kenshin on your field if necessary. And I'll be looking at some interesting 2-cost generator cards of the deck, which is the 3-cost 1 action point Kenshin that says activate main if on the energy line once per turn. Place 1 Will to Live card from your sideline on the bottom of your deck, and note that is the AP restand card of your deck. If you do, move this character to your front line and give it 1000 BP until the end of the turn, going up from 3000 to 4000 BP, and this is the color trigger of the deck. So this card is very interesting because it allows you to use this card as energy, but when needed, you can also push it to the front line to be able to deal some chip damage or go for that final attack for a game. And we also have our 3-cost 1 action point Seijuro that says this character cannot be played onto your front line and can only be moved to your front line using its ability. When played, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, place any number of them on the top of your deck in any order, then place any remaining cards into your sideline. Also activate main, place 2 cards from your hand into your sideline once per turn. You can only activate this ability if Kenshin is on your field, move this character to the other line. And this card has an active trigger, generating 2 energy with 4000 BP. So very similar to our other card. This card allows you to generate energy, and when needed, you can move it to the front line to push for game. And now we have our 2-cost 1 action point Misao that also has the ability to decrease its cost from 2 to 0 if you have no cards on the field, effectively allowing you to play less 0 cost in your deck. So that's why we only play 8 true 0 cost in the deck. Also, when played, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, place up to one of them into your sideline, place the remaining cards on the top of your deck in any order. So we have our blue Aoshi deck. So this is a very interesting combo deck that we'll be going over. The main card of the deck is the 4-cost 1 action point Aoshi that says when played, this character gains 1000 BP until the end of the turn, so going up from 4000 to 5000. Also activate main, place the base card of this rated card set to active onto your field. It gains this character cannot attack, and if this character is active at the end of your attack phase, sideline it until the end of the turn. So why would you want to do this? It allows you to create basically a dummy card that can be used either as a raid target or as a target for other cards to facilitate your combos. So the main card that we want to be replaying is our 2-cost 1 action point Aoshi. It says when played, if this character is played with one of your character or event card abilities, draw a card. If it is played with the previous card, you will be able to draw a card. Also, this is the color trigger of the deck, generates 1 energy, and it has 2500 BP. So let's say you replay this card with any of the other cards, it allows it to draw a card, but then it also is a combo facilitator. For example, you have this on the field, and then you play your 4-cost 1 action point Aoshi that says when played, you may switch to resting one other active Oniwaban group affinity card on your field. If you do, switch this character to active, allowing you to get a 4000 BP attacker active right away. And then not only that, you can still use the Aoshi as a raid target. For example, for this one, that allows you to, when played, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal up to one Oniwaban group affinity card or event card with Kaiten in its name among them, and add it to your hand. Place the remaining cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. And we'll be looking at that card here. It is the 4-cost 1 action point Kaiten Kenbu. That is the special card of the deck, and it says choose one character with 3000 less BP on your opponent's front line and sideline it. For each Aoshi on your field, add 1000 to the BP range of the character you may choose with this ability. And most notably, this archetype has 2 different specials. So the other special that you can play is the 4-cost 1 action point Kaiten Kenbu 6 Successions that says choose one Aoshi on your field. It loses 1000 BP and gains at the end of this character's attack. You may switch one active Aoshi on your field to resting. If you do, switch this character to active until the end of the turn. So the goal of this card is to allow one of your Aoshis to attack twice, to double attack during this turn. But this card is a lot more niche because first of all, you have to have an Aoshi that has 5000 BP in order for it to lose 1000 BP and still be effective, and also have another Aoshi on the field that you can turn rested. And now we have our 2-cost 1 action point Movement of Flowing Water. So this is a very cheeky little card because it is an event card. that says play up to 1 Aoshi with 2 or less required energy and 1 AP cost from your hand or sideline set to active onto your field. That character gains this character cannot attack, and if this character is active at the end of your attack phase, sideline it until the end of the turn. If you played a card from your hand, draw a card. And this card also has an active trigger. So of course, the best target for this card is our 2 cost 1 action point Aoshi that allows you to draw a card if played with the movement of flowing water. But another decent target is the 0 cost 1 action point Aoshi that allows you to, when play, draw a card, then place 1 card from your hand into your sideline. Alright, thanks for watching, and like and subscribe for more videos.